Nursing students have a chance to voice their opinions in the Tri-States tonight with 3 Illinois and Missouri state legislators. Dozens of Blessing-Rieman College of Nursing and Health Science students gathered at Spring Lake Country Club to learn what healthcare legislation is being considered in Illinois and Missouri. They also got to ask questions to Illinois legislators Randy Freese and C.D. Davidsmeyer and Missouri legislator Greg Sharp.
Because healthcare is such a huge issue in the nation currently, and it's so important for nurses and healthcare providers to let our legislators know what their issues are on the front lines.
In Illinois, there's a little bit of a difficulty getting our certificates to us in a timely manner, and so just being able to voice that to him and see kind of how we can combat that and just what we can do in the future to make sure that as practicing nurses we get our license as soon as possible.
Another key point of the discussion was the debate of compact states, which legally permit nurses to get multi-state licenses. Right now, Missouri is a compact state, while Illinois is not.